Hey everybody. I interviewed my friend Rainal via Skype for this assignment. She's from the Philippines and has lived there in Africa and New York and has been educated in all of those places in different types of educational systems. And we've been friends since second grade when we met in the Philippines. So Rainal and I spent some time talking about our shared experience at the international school that we went to in the Philippines, or the missionary kids school, but we mostly talked about her being in Filipino public school, which was different than my experience, as well as international school in Kenya and private school in New York, and drawing from differences we had there. So when Raynal first started going to school in New York after never been in an American classroom before, she was amazed at the focus on grades rather than on learning. So in the Philippines, the stress was put on learning when she was in public school, and grades were a literal reflection of their learning process and not necessarily on how well they temporarily memorized things for a test or a project. And I definitely agree with her, and I noticed that even in my education. In America, there's so much more pressure to get good grades, and it seems like a lot of teachers don't really care about how much you learn. So she said that she took a lot of pride in her learning when she lived in the Philippines. And so that was probably the biggest difference that she experienced. And I think it's a rather important one. So as far as what I learned from her and how we can apply that, there's two main things that stuck out to me. One was repetition. In the Philippines, she was used to, and as well as in Africa, a lot of repeating things back to the teacher. And it showed that she was engaged in the content and assured the teacher that she was too. And that seems to drop off a lot in American school after elementary. And the second was discussion. A lot of times, especially when talking about the Bible, it's important to have open discussion to allow for some dialogue and debate and questions to be asked. And she experienced a lot of lack of conversation when she was in school in the States, and that was definitely something that she missed from being in the Philippines, and definitely something that we need to keep in mind when working with people of different cultures that are more oral. So, yeah, that's something that really needs to be stressed.